Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Harakat Dash. God want to say apostles and elders, great ministers of the whole world. And Shalom to the brothers do the work. And sincerity and truth. Bringing his word to the four corners. Yeah, I'm just going to go into a news article touching on Russia basically doing preparation essentially for like a full country nuclear attack. That's essentially what they've been doing. Preparation essentially for a minute about a variety of different attacks. Because obviously these guys are in the midst of war, but it's been mentioned multiple times. What a nuclear war is on the horizon, and then as well. Now these guys are what? They're basically doing nationwide exercises, to prep for if that hits. And these are the things. It's funny because Russia's in the midst of it. They're doing it, but this is something that's going to affect globally, man. It's going to hit people all around, and it's people in the West. It's funny. They're thinking of it as something afar off, and that's kind of been the vibe for like the last, really since the end of World War II. Because all of the different conflicts they've been abroad. Outside of like a few attacks or whatnot, it's mostly been like the warfare's been elsewhere. Mate, it's gonna hit home base. So that's on the Metro. It says Putin to stage first nationwide exercise simulating nuclear attack from the West. So yeah, nuclear attack from the West, that's something that you go back 2, 3, 5 years ago, that's not something that was being spoken about. It was being said by brothers of the truth for the longest, from the elders on down, from the apostles on down. It's done been said, like, America's getting touched by nukes. Now we're seeing that come back since the Cold War. It's not really been spoken about, but now it's back in vogue. That's the focus, because why? Now it's become a reality again. So that says Russia will stage its first nationwide nuclear attack exercise across 11 time zones in preparation for potential nuclear war. It is scheduled to take place on October 3rd and will see Vladimir Putin's regime present the West as a nuclear aggressor. The one-day nuclear attack exercise, which has only ever been done region by region, will include preparation for the destruction of up to 70% of Russian housing stock and life support facilities. It will assume the scenario that martial law has been introduced in Russia and that has gone through full mobilization. So yeah, they're basically going to be experiencing, for that day they're practicing, they're going to be experiencing, an event that's soon to come. And this is something we've mentioned it, we've spoken about for the longest. And now it seems closer than it ever has been. When you mention these things and people, their eyes will glaze over. They ain't really going to pay attention. But out there in Russia, it's a reality. And it's going to become a reality over here real soon. What to say? The scenario for the test reads, in some constituent entities of the Russian Federation as a result of emergencies or other types of physical impact, complete destruction of life support facilities and up to 70% of housing stock is possible. It envisions accidents at hydraulic structures, chemically and radiation hazardous facilities, resulting in secondary hazards. Civil servants and regional officials will be ordered to organize a non-staff emergency rescue team, ensure food and medical supplies, and protection from radioactive protection. It says the document further warns the risk of armed conflicts escalating into local and regional wars, including those involving nuclear powers, is increasing. And that's true, because this is something that's been spoken of for the longest. You've had, for the last decade plus, it was really only North Korea that was testing nukes. But it says further down, Russia's been developing, and they've gone back to nuclear testing. in the Arctic for the first time in a long time. So essentially that whole vibration is back. That Cold War dichotomy of having what? The West and the East, you know, Russia and America essentially competing, and then with nukes in the mix. So I'll read this. Ezekiel 38:2 says, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say, Thus saith the Most High Power, because I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth and all thine army, horses and horsemen. Yeah, that's essentially being turned back, being put into that old spirit, which is being seen. And it's now, what's the new thing? They're preparing for that nuclear war popping off. The first thing in a hot minute. And that's something they're preparing for, but people in the West are still disconnected. They're not seeing it as something that, oh, it could hit. It's funny because Putin mentioned that he'll be able to make strikes on London, but people are basically fanning their hands. People ain't over here, ain't prepared. When these things come, it's gonna take them by complete surprise. So read this. The times are coming. People aren't thinking about it in their minds. There's been people that come up, and then we'll tell them like, yo, we're going into a time when there's going to be restrictions on the way you can move, restrictions on being able to access food, being able to eat, having electricity, having access to amenities, you know, to vary like water, whatnot. You might not be able to go back to your house. You might, for you to essentially partake in society, you're gonna have to take one implant, and if you take that, then you know what's still gonna be. You're essentially cut off. You're slated for destruction. These are things that people don't meditate on, think of in their minds, or see as real. But hey, over there, it's already being manifest for them. They're doing a practice run of it. I read this because we'll lay out in explicit detail. 2 Ezra 15 and 14. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh. And one people shall stand up and fight against another, with swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. And what did they say? They said regional. What did it say? It said regional and the risk of armed conflicts escalating into local. The risk of armed conflicts escalating into local and regional wars, including those involving nuclear powers, is increasing. That's straight up what it says in prophecy, and it's something you can see. You've had like Poland was the top, one of the first supporters of Ukraine as soon as the war kicked off. But now you have Ukraine and Poland at odds because of why? Because of Polish interest. And in the longer term, the amount of money that's been flooded into Ukraine, more and more countries are going to be questioning why. They're thinking like, yo, we're putting money into this, what are we getting back out of it? But ultimately, it comes down to prophecy. It's going to be dictated by what? The spirit, man. So I'll read a bit more of this. It says what? For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. A man shall desire to go into a city, and shall not be able, for because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. Those are the things that now, in Russia they're preparing for. They're in the midst of the warfare. But that's something on a global scale. People aren't it's going to come as a shock. It's going to come as a surprise. Because the people over here, they're thinking about, when the next Dune movie's coming out. When what's some, they're looking at the entertainment releases. They're thinking about, when's the next World Cup? The next time they're gonna go see Arsenal play. They're thinking about, the next time some kicks they've been waiting on are dropping. These are the things that they have at the forefront of their mind, and that they're putting weight on. But for them, the reality of missiles flying through the sky and impacting the land, that's far off. It says, 1 Thessalonians 5 and 1, it says, "But of the times and seasons, brethren, you have no need that I write unto you. For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape." And yeah, that's what the vibe is. Essentially, it's going to come as a thief. Because by and large, most people are looking at these things like, it's those same wackos that have been talking about these things for the last how long? It's what, 2 Peter 3, where it says, since the fathers fell asleep, you've been saying the same thing. Like, where's the proof of his coming? But that's the thing. Now we're seeing proof of his coming. We're basically seeing a conflict where it can easily take over into a global nuclear conflict. But still, people are like, it's not going to happen. There's no way that Russia could compete with the US X, Y, Z. It's funny because there's various wars. It's like the war in Somalia and Vietnam as well. Both of those, they were just like, these guys, we can go over easy. Lo and behold, they fucking lost, man. They took L and had to fuck off. So these, people are looking at things fondly, and they're basically caught up in the web now. They don't really see the full scope of what's going down. So I read this, Isaiah 9 and 5, "For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise, and garments rolled in blood, but this shall be with burning and fuel of fire." Yeah, every war that's come previously, it's been like a scene from 300, it's been like a scene from Saving Private Ryan, where you'll see there's been, men running up. Even when you go into World War I, these guys would be in trenches, and then between trenches it was called no man's land. It's the second you go in there, artillery's going to be firing. There's going to be some guy on a machine gun, laying you down, man, filling you full of holes. But what's coming is what? Nuclear. When you do nuclear missiles, when you do, you see these bombs being blown up. All you see is the cloud. You don't even see what gets deteriorated on the surface level, man. People are being hit with levels of heat where it says in the scriptures what their eyes are gonna disintegrate in their sockets, their tongue just gonna burn up. So it's on a whole different scale. Because what's gonna be the what's going to be the end result of all of that? Okay, so Revelation 17 and start from verse 12. It says, "And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast." And that's how you have these the EU, these different kingdoms all basically, these different regions came together as one, and then they essentially were underneath, like essentially America was the military power over them, and then they joined in with essentially America's kingdom that was established after World War II. And then they ruled, they essentially joined onto that system. What does it say? "They have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast." So for a season, for a minute, they'll completely in accord with the beast. They're running with America. They're doing everything with them. But now we've come to the tail end of that. Because what does it say? I'll skip down a few verses to verse 16. It says, "And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire." These same allies that now everyone's, throwing in their hat, they're throwing in their lot with America. All that's going to flip. Because as far as it's what it's going to say, for the Most High have put in their hearts to fulfill His will and to agree and give their kingdoms unto the beast, unto the words of the Most High should be fulfilled. Yeah, these guys are essentially the Most High is going where they'll run with America for a hot minute, but then what? When it comes to the time, they're going to switch on it. And that's the thing. There's for every kingdom, there's been a time appointed. They'll run up to to the limits, to the bounds of it. Then once it's time, then their doom their demise will come. But now it's people are talking like America can't be hit the same way, despite people always comparing the Roman Empire and America. Just like with them, it's also going to meet its demise, and it's something that's happened over time. Really, 60s, 70s, it's been on a decline, and that's something carnal people in the world even say the same thing. Let alone those that know the truth. I'll finish on this. Joel 2. So I'll start from verse 1. It says, "Blow ye the trumpet in Zion, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Lord Yahweh cometh, for it is nigh at hand. A day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and a thick darkness, as the morning spread upon the mountains, a great people and a strong. There hath not been ever the like, neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. A fire devoureth before them, and behind them a flame burneth. The land is as a garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness, yea, nothing shall escape them." There's those missiles, man. Basically moving as an army, moving into the chord, where it has what? The fire behind them, the propulsion, and then the fire in the front as well. For the atmospheric re-entry that nose burning up. So what to say, the appearance of them is as horses? No. The appearance of them is as the appearance of horses, and as horsemen, so shall they run. Like the noise of chariots on the tops of mountains, shall they leap like the noise of a flame of fire, that devoureth the stubble, as a strong people set in battle array. Before their face, the people shall be much pain. All faces shall gather blackness. And yeah, these guys, when they touch down, it's going to be nothing but desolation. And that's something that Hollywood's been obsessed with for the longest. There's been myriad movies, countless movies, basically going into that, nuclear holocaust, nuclear destruction, the post-apocalypse. After the missiles drop, what's it going to be like? Because it's going to be a legendary level of desolation. It says what? They shall run like mighty men. They shall climb the wall like men of war. And they shall march every one on his ways. And they shall not break their ranks. Neither shall one thrust another. They shall walk every one in his path. And they shall fall upon the sword. They shall not be wounded. So yeah, they're gonna hit their target. They're gonna land, man. They ain't all just gonna spiral out in space. They're gonna do their job. It says what? The earth shall quake before them. The heavens shall tremble. The sun and the moon shall be dark. The stars shall withdraw their shining. And the Lord Yahweh shall utter his voice before his army. For his camp is very great. For he is strong to execute his word. For the day of the Lord Yahweh is great and very terrible. And who can abide it? And that's what, hey, it's all building up to. That's what these guys in Russia are preparing for. That's what the people over here are unprepared for, man. And it's going to hit like a shot. The day of the Lord. And the lead up to it is what? The hour of temptation. You're going to have hella people folding and thinking they're getting safety by partaking in Esau's system. By getting that brass grain. They're going to think that's going to be to their benefit, but they're sealing their own doom. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. So praise to Yahweh, Hashem Yahshua, Hashem Kadash.